Hello and welcome to Sounds Unheard, the video series of Speak Percussion. I'm Mark Applebaum. I'm a composer and a performer, musician from California. I teach at Stanford University. I'm a professor there, but I'm visiting Australia right now. I'm here in Melbourne for some concerts and some presentations, and I'm delighted to be able to have this opportunity to speak with you about my music, to share with you some of my musical ideas and thoughts. And one of the things that I'm particularly interested in these days is thinking about the concept of musical discipline and reflecting on the various things that I do. And some of those things are composing music for orchestra and for soloists, and some of the things are playing the piano. Some of the things I do include inventing instruments and playing them. There's a lot of areas that I work in, and in all of those spaces, I found that discipline is really important, and sometimes it's about inventing a discipline that's appropriate to those things. Sometimes inventing new disciplines. In any case, I want to speak to you about the way that I've found that I've been helped a lot in developing my musical art through a formal, conscious consideration of discipline. So that's my agenda today. I'm going to put this presentation in, I think, 4 parts. We'll divide it into 4 parts. The first part is going to involve playing the piano. I'm going to play a lot of jazz and talk a little bit about how improvisation works, thinking about the ways that, what the jazz improviser is thinking of while he or she is playing. So that'll be part 1. Then I want to share 2 particular song forms with you. I want to talk about 32-bar song form and 12-bar blues. And I want to sort of share the structure of those song forms. And that will be very useful for you, I hope. And then the third part of this presentation will be a presentation of my sound sculptures. I'm going to show you some pictures and some sounds of these weird instruments that I've been building out of junk and hardware and found objects. And then in the 4th section of the presentation, I'm going to share a piece for hand gestures synchronized to pre-recorded audio. And that's a very different kind of discipline, where the first ones, the jazz piano playing and the sound sculpture, invite improvisation. That is to say, I'm doing spontaneous musical creation in those areas. With this other piece that I want to share with you for hand gestures synchronized to sound, it's what I would call determinate music. It's not indeterminate, it's not spontaneous, it doesn't change from performance to performance, it's determinate, it's set, there are particular notes, particular gestures that I'm supposed to do at various times, and that's another kind of discipline. All of these kinds of disciplines are actually relevant to you, even if you're not doing hand gestures, even if you're not inventing instruments, even if you're not a jazz musician. It's probably useful to think about how these can be applied to playing orchestral French horn, or playing electric guitar in a rock band, or maybe playing orchestral rock guitar, or playing rock French horn, whatever it is. The point is, I'm hoping to share some of my experiences thinking about discipline in the various musical guises that I undertake, and I hope the talk aspires to kind of making a little bit of a role model that you can adapt for your own purposes. Okay, so let's get started with part 1, and I'm just saying that this is the part that's about improvisation. Let me bring up my first slide here. Here's the title of my talk. It says Musical Disciplines, Jazz, Improvisation, and Beyond. And then the next slide is on improvisation. So I'm actually going to just see if I can improvise some piece on the piano, and then we'll find out where that takes us, okay? Okay, so that was, anyone know? Okay, it was Harold Arlen's Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz. And I don't know if you heard it, the tune coming in by and by. I was trying to disguise it at the beginning, and I was doing it over this dominant pedal tone. I was playing the 5th scale degree in the bass. And then some of these other dissonant, crunchy tones. And instead of, I wasn't really allowing it to resolve entirely. And that was trying to give a sort of more sinister, menacing sort of tone, make it a little bit more mysterious, just because I think it's interesting to do that. Just because we've heard the song the kind of regular conventional way. So if I'm going to contribute something, I might try to do something a little bit different that is more personal to me. So that's what I did with that tune. Now, what was I doing there in my mind? Because I was actually doing quite a bit. I was hearing the regular tune in my head, right? Sort of like this. But that's not what I was playing. Of course, I was playing all sorts of other stuff I was trying to invent, and I don't know, I was just trying to entertain myself, to be honest. But how was I doing that? I was imagining this other thing going on in my head. This is what jazz improvisers do. We have, in a sense, what I like to call a mind's ear. Okay, so we have a mind's eye. Okay, you can imagine some sort of place. Let's try this as an exercise. Close your eyes and imagine maybe the place you grew up in, a scene. Imagine a room or a house or a building or an apartment or something like that. So fix that in your mind, and now open your eyes and look at the video screen and see me or see your surroundings. But at the same time, try to see that image, in that memory, that space that you can imagine in your mind. Okay, so clearly you have a kind of mind's eye. You can see something that's not there. You can imagine something in addition to seeing the actual real surroundings that are, that constitute, your sort of present environment. This is, of course, very, very useful if you're driving a car, because if you start to imagine something and we didn't have this capacity and that imagination erased what you're seeing in front of you, it would be incredibly dangerous, right, if you couldn't see the traffic. But fortunately, we have this ability, we have this mind's eye, we can see other things while sort of superimposed in our mind. Similarly, I think musicians, especially improvisers and jazz musicians, have this mind's ear, where we hear a tune or some harmonies or some sort of sounds in our head that are not actually being articulated. They're not really in the world in the auditory sense, okay? But they're in our mind, they're in our imagination. And what is in the auditory world is this other stuff that we're replacing it with. So for example, if we take this tune, by the way, no one really needs to ever hear again. And particularly because of that, I'm inclined to adjust it, to change it, to do something different with it. So I might do this. Could you kind of follow that? I'm hoping you could sort of hear the tune in your head as I was. I was playing all sorts of different things, and they were in a sense superimposed. They were substitutions, elaborations of the original. So, and in the simplest sense, we can do this as a kind of embellishment, like. So I'm sort of just like adding extra notes. Instead of, I'm going. Now here's a point, instead of going, I might go. Sort of noticing that the line goes down, and so I'm just sort of doing the opposite. I'm just going up, all right? But I hear in my mind while I'm actually playing. So, and then of course you can get into more flights of fancy and impress people that you can play fast. That's especially something that I do when I don't have any good ideas. I just play a lot of notes. Okay, so this is suddenly a confessional of sorts. Anyway, the point is that this is what's happening, and I can explain this a little bit more by telling you about a song that we sing in the United States as kids. It's the song about the farmer who had a dog, and Bingo was his name-o. So there was a farmer who had a dog, and Bingo was his name-o. B-I-N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name-o. And then what we do the next time we sing the name, we spell it out, we substitute a clap for the B. So we sing I-N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name-o. Then N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name-o. But I think that you are hearing B-I when I go N-G-O, N-G-O, N-G-O. And then finally we get and Bingo was his name-o. So this is a situation where you clearly, even kids, have this developed mind's ear. They can imagine something that is not actually being articulated. And in fact, what is being articulated is claps. So we don't get any real pitch information. There's no sort of melody, but we're hearing that. And we certainly don't get the lyrics, the words, in this case, the letters. But we're still imagining that. So this is a very powerful and useful tool for improvisers, especially jazz improvisers. I can explain this in yet another way. If we think of a piece of music, here's a piece of music I'm going to share with you. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it, and then it repeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't say it was a good piece of music or an interesting piece of music. It's a very simple piece of music, simple lyrics, not such a great melody, no melody really to speak of. Anyway, that's my piece. Now, I'll conduct that with it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what I want to do is, I want to just articulate 3. I'm only going to say 3, but I'm going to hear, this is a matter of discipline, I'm going to hear 1, 2, and 4 in my mind, in my mind's ear. 3, 3, 3, 3. Can you hear the 1, 2, and 4 in your mind? Okay, you can speak it along with me. Let's try this. 3, 3, 3. Okay? So we're hearing 1, 2, and 4 in our minds, but we're only saying 3. Now what the jazz improviser might do is they might elaborate on some of that material. So let's say 3 twice, right? Let's say on beat 3, and then let's say it again on the end of 3 like this. 3, 3, 3, 3. But you still have to hear 1, 2, 4. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. 3, 3, okay? Now let's do something different. Let's take 3, and let's articulate the 3, but let's hold it all the way through, kind of a minimum. Let's hold it all the way through beat 4 and stop back on 1. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. You really need to hear and imagine the word 4 happening at 4 while you're saying 3. Here we go. 3, 3, 3, 3, right? So that's again, another kind of thing we could elongate it out. Another thing we could do is something really kind of mysterious. We could make 3 happen on beat 4. Here we go. But you got to think 4 while you're saying 3. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, okay? What else can we do? We can now substitute. We could use some other material that's kind of related to 3. So let's say 3 in another language. Tre, trois, shalosh, san, right? So you could have these other kinds of dialects, other kinds of inflections, other way of treating 3. We could say something that's sort of punning or rhyming. So let's take a rhyme with three. Free, me, tree, etc. Okay? You could say something that you have three of. Apples, closets, I don't know. So you can, in a sense, we're taking the original idea and it's suggesting new ideas that are somehow related to it. Related to it, but changed in time, related to it, but maybe changed in character in some ways, and we're still imagining the original idea in our heads, okay? That's what's happening when I go. So right now I'm doing omission, right? Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else I want to say about that sort of basic idea. So that's really one of the most important things. It's a kind of a discipline of knowing a tune, knowing the harmonies, knowing the rhythms and so forth, and being able to imagine it while simultaneously saying something else. You know, being able to know that here comes three, but I'm going to say apples instead of three. That's really kind of what the jazz musicians are doing. Okay, that's the end of part one. We're going to move on to part two in a moment, where I'm going to share with you some more tunes. I'm going to share with you some ideas about some song forms, the 32-bar form, and then the 12-bar blues. And we'll take it from there. Okay, see you in a moment.